What is self, and how can we identify ourselves with it? How can we always remember it?
That is what we're here to find out. What is self? Firstly, self is not an it. It is ourself. There's no thing called the self other than ourself. We ourself are what we are seeking to know. The truth is, there is not a moment when we do not know ourselves. We always know I am. But though we know that we are, we do not know what we are, because what we are is nothing other than our existence, I am. So what we actually are is nothing other than I am. But though we know I am and know ourselves as I am, we don't know ourselves as just I am. When we rise as ego, instead of knowing ourselves as just I am, we know ourselves as I am this person, I am this body. So our present awareness of ourselves is a false awareness. That is, the real awareness is the fundamental awareness I am. Superimposed upon that real awareness I am is this false awareness, I am this or that, I am Michael, I am whoever. So we are not looking for anything that we do not know already. We already know I am. There's never a moment when we do not know I am. The problem is, instead of knowing just I am, we know so many other things. We know other things only when we rise as ego. That is, in waking and dream, we rise as ego, identify ourselves as a body, and consequently are aware of the appearance of other things. In sleep, we do not rise as ego, therefore we do not identify ourselves with a body, therefore we are aware of nothing other than ourselves. As Bhagavan says in verse 4 of Uludu Napadu, if oneself is a form, the world and God will be likewise. If oneself is not a form, who can see their forms and how? So we are aware of this multitude of forms that constitute the world only because we mistake ourselves to be a form, namely the form of this body, which is, as Bhagavan says in the next verse, is a form composed of 5 sheaths. That is the physical form of the body, the Annamaya Kosha, as it's called, the life that animates his body, or Pranamaya Kosha, as it's called, the mind, meaning the grosser functions of the mind, the thoughts, feelings, perceptions, memories, emotions, and so on. That's called Manomaya Kosha. The intellect, the discerning, judging, discriminating, reasoning aspect of the mind, that's called Vijnanamaya Kosha. And what drives all these, the cause behind all these, is the will, our vasanas. That is called the Anandamaya Kosha, or Karana Sarira, the causal body. So these 5 sheaths constitute the body that we take ourselves to be. So in other words, the body means the person. So whenever, throughout the waking and dream state, we're aware of ourselves as this body consisting of 5 sheaths. And consequently, we're aware of other things, because as Bhagavan says in that verse 4, if oneself is a form, the world and God will be likewise. That is, when we limit ourselves as a form, we see a multitude of forms, and every form is different to every other form. So forms are all limited, finite things. So, and because we limit ourselves as a form of a body, even God seems to be something other than ourselves. God, who is the one infinite whole, because we seemingly separate ourselves as this small form, God seems to us to be something separate from ourselves. And because he seems to be separate, he seems to be a form. Even if we say God is formless, the very idea that God is formless, that idea is itself a form. So we cannot, as Bhagavan said, we cannot know God as formless without knowing ourselves as formless. So, so long as we know ourselves as a form, we know only forms. But if we know ourselves as we actually are, if we know ourselves without form, then we will not be aware of any forms. We can see this clearly in sleep. In sleep, we cease, as soon as we fall asleep, we cease identifying ourselves as I am this body, and consequently, we cease to be aware of anything other than our own being, I am. So the whole problem is our rising as ego and taking ourselves to be a form of a body. And now I've forgotten, I started to answer the question. I've forgotten what the question is now.
The question is, what is self and how can we
Oh,
identify ourselves with it? How can we always remember it?
all right, yes, this is the other thing. So self is that which is shining in us as I. We don't need to identify ourselves with ourselves. All we need to do is to cease identifying with anything other than ourselves. In other words, cease identifying ourselves as I am this body. But it is the very nature of ego to always identify itself as I am this body. That is, as Bhagavan says in verse 25 of Uludunapadu, he describes ego as a formless phantom. It's formless because it's got no form of its own. And it's a phantom because it's got no substance of its own. It borrows its form from a body and it borrows its substance, that is its awareness, its existence and its awareness. It borrows from Satchit, from pure awareness, pure existence awareness, I am. So it's neither this nor that. So ego has got no separate existence. But what he says about ego in this verse is, grasping form, it comes into existence. Grasping form, it stands. Grasping and feeding on form, it flourishes abundantly. Leaving form, it grasps form. So the implication is the very nature of ego is to grasp form. The first form it grasps, as soon as it comes into existence, simultaneous with its coming into existence, it grasps the form of a body. Or to put it more precisely, it projects and grasps the form of a body, because the body doesn't exist independent of ego. Just like in a dream, as soon as we start dreaming, that is, the dream starts with our projecting a body, taking that body to be ourself, and through the five senses of that body, projecting an external world. Exactly the same happens in the waking state. So grasping form, it comes into existence. And ego cannot stand for a moment without grasping this body as I. So grasping form, it stands. It stands means it endures, it persists. And having grasped the form of this body as I, it then feeds on other forms. It's constantly attending to things other than itself, other forms. Forms here means not just physical form. Form means anything that is in any way distinguishable from anything other thing. So all objects or phenomena are forms. So in the third sentence, he says, grasping and feeding on forms, it flourishes abundantly. That is, the food on which we as ego live and survive is attending to things other than ourselves. So it's the very nature of ego to grasp things. And since ego cannot stand for a moment without grasping some form, he says in the next sentence, leaving form, it grasps form. So if we leave one thing, we grasp something else. So the very nature of ego is to always grasp forms. So that this identification, I am this body, it's the nature of ego to identify itself as I am this body. That's why Bhagavan often said, ego is nothing but the thought, I am this body, or the false awareness, I am this body. So we don't need to replace one identification with another. Some people think, oh, if I'm not this body, then I should meditate. I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. But Bhagavan says, do you need to think I am a man, I am a man, I am a man? You know a man means here a human being. Do you need to think I am a human being, I'm a human being? No, you know you're a human being, because so long as you rise as ego, you experience yourself as a body. So you don't need to be meditating to think that. So we don't need to meditate, I am Brahman. What we need to do is to experience ourselves as Brahman. Brahman is that Satchidananda, that pure being, pure awareness, pure happiness, which is our own real nature. That is what we actually are. So how to experience ourselves as that? We need to, so long as we are experiencing anything other than ourselves, that which experiences other things is ego. So if we want to put an end to ego and to know ourselves as we actually are, we need to attend to ourselves alone. So if we hold on to our own being, all the adjuncts with which we've now identified ourselves will drop off, because these adjuncts are not holding us. We are holding the adjuncts. The body doesn't say, that doesn't hold on to us. It's we who say, I am this body. So we're holding on to this body. So if we, instead of holding on to anything else, if we just try to hold on to our own being, in other words, if we attend to ourselves, to the extent to which we attend to ourselves, the adjuncts will drop off, ego will subside, and the more we hold on to our being, the more ego will subside, and eventually it will dissolve completely back in its source. So we don't need to identify with anything. All we need to do is to hold on to our own being and thereby let go of all the false identification. When the false identification remains, then our true identity will reveal itself as I am I. We don't even need to think I am I. So long as we're thinking I am I, who is thinking I am I? It's ego that's thinking I am I. So let's not even think I am I. Let's just hold on to I, and everything will drop off, and our own real, true identity will then shine forth as I am I. Not as the words I am I, but what the words I am I refer to. In other words, the clear recognition of ourself as ourself alone. So the whole purpose of this, of Bhagavan's path, is the investigation, who am I? So we are trying to find out what we actually are. What is the self? So any answer that can be given in words, it can only be a pointer. We ourselves need to experience ourselves as we actually are. And we can experience ourselves as we actually are only by attending to ourselves more and more and more.